Hello ladies, welcome to my channel. In today's video, we are going to talk about the next core value of old money, or those who have an old money mindset, and that is family and marriage. The success of marriage and the success of the family unit is the sixth core value of old money, but it may be the single most important one. Divorce, domestic violence, drug and alcohol abuse, unplanned pregnancies, spoiled or maladjusted children, these are deadly to old money or money of any age. Nobody knows what's going to happen when they get married, but there are things old money does to tilt the odds of happiness and success in their favor. Consider these as you contemplate marriage and family. So some of the things that I have learned in this book, it was really interesting this whole time to see the things that I was already adopting and then the things that I could improve on. And one of the things that they talk about in this book is that if we are looking to live like old money and have old money values and mindset, is to marry later on in life. Now, that wasn't necessarily something that I strived for, but it's something that ended up happening. One of the things that I'm learning for myself about marrying later on in life or getting into a relationship later on in life is that I know who I am more now than I ever did when I was younger. And I know that I will continue to grow and learn, but I do think that once you've lived a little bit of life, you understand what means something to you and what doesn't. And so it will definitely be something that I wouldn't want my child to never settle down. But I do think that you have an entire lifetime to find love. And so I would love for my children to find love with themselves first before finding love with somebody else. And it was cool to hear that that was an old money trait too. Often when you do this, you will find that people will end up marrying once as opposed to multiple times because they've given themselves some time and space to understand who they are first and foremost. Now, if you've watched the previous videos in this series, you will know that there's a lot of areas in regards to adopting an old money mindset or old money values that involve your children. And the thing is, old money refers to family who has had money in their family for 3 generations or more. So you can't really have old money without having family. And so it took me some time to really process that because almost every video I've spoken to you about has had some type of topic of children. And as me and my husband are on a journey to start our family, it kind of made me think, well, can't I be old money without having children? And I do think that you can, but I do think that if you are looking to adopt old money values, you need an heir, you need family to pass that down to. And so if you have implemented some of the things that I've spoken about in the previous videos, or if you've picked up this book and you know yourself, you'll be able to fulfill some of those other areas, those other core value areas that we've spoken about, like education, like financial independence, etc. One of the biggest things that I have learned about relationships is that chemistry, it comes and it goes, but core values are so important. My husband and I have different humor, my husband and I have different interests, but I think if you get to the core of it, our values are the same. The next thing that I've learned about old money is that old money has a clear vision of what they expect their future to look like, and then they put a plan in place of how they're going to get there. But equally, they have a vision of what their life is going to look like because of the certain values and expectations that they have for their life. Now, the next thing that they spoke about in this book is how when you take a relationship a little bit slower, it allows you to experience life's ups and downs. And then that allows you to go through seasons of life where maybe things are a little bit tougher and you get to assess in your partner how they deal with things, and they get to assess in you how you deal with things. And you can see, okay, are we a good match to go through hard times together, or are we only a match to go through good times together? My husband and I had quite a quick relationship for a multitude of reasons. And I do have to say that this is the hardest part about getting together with somebody and having a relationship progress in a quicker manner, is that you don't know how this person's gonna react to good news. You don't know how this person's gonna react to bad news. And I think when people get good news, it's not as much of a challenge, but equally if it's bad news, you have to not only handle that bad news yourself, but then you also have to try and support that person and understand how they're handling it. So I wouldn't go back and change anything about our experience, but I do see the value in what they're saying in this book. The next thing that they speak about in this book is to remove any social pressure. So of course they talk about social media, which is definitely something that I've had to reflect on in this last year. If you follow me over on Instagram, if you follow our other YouTube channel, you will see that we have really reeled in how we show up online, how much I include of our personal life, what areas I show, what areas I don't show, and be it that I work as a content creator, I think I'll naturally show more than the average person who's looking at adopting old money values just due to the nature of my job. But even with saying that, I am constantly every day refining what I share and what I don't share. Have you gotten any feedback about your partner? Sometimes we can get feedback from our family and our friends, but we have to understand the audience in which we're asking. But sometimes if we ask for feedback from our family and friends, they are going to flag up the things that maybe you aren't seeing yourself or you're blinded by from this partner. I know in my previous relationship, none of my family or friends liked him. There's lots of things that my family and friends flagged up, and I didn't listen to it at all. And I would have saved myself a lot of heartache and a lot of grief if I had listened to them. But then equally, I think it's really important to understand who you're asking this advice from, and if they're aware of any cultural differences that might come to play, or if they really understand the nuances of your relationship. I think sometimes it's easy for people that are closest to us to put us in a box and not see how sometimes we might step outside of that box. Equally, I think sometimes, just giving you a quick example, maybe there were people in my husband's life who may not have thought me and my husband were a great match, but sometimes what they're seeing is cultural differences, but not differences of who we are in our hearts and at our core. And so I do think that sometimes if we do ask for advice, we have to understand and assess, is this person the appropriate person to ask for this advice from? But with that being said, often, especially in old money circles, if there is any type of suspicion about a particular person, that will snuff out any chances of the relationship lasting or forming more than it is now. If you saw a previous video, you know that I have been loving watching like Jane Austen movies lately and reading a lot of Jane Austen's books, and I believe it's in Pride and Prejudice where, I can't remember his name, but he deters his friend from marrying one of the sisters, and he ended it quickly. And I think even though that was set back in the ye olde times, I still think that there are people who will have that level of influence on the person that you are interested in. So don't undermine it, but also understand that you have to assess and know the audience of who you're asking an opinion from. Who doesn't love a big diamond? I know I love diamonds, but with that being said, there's this rule where they say a engagement ring should be 3 months of your salary. And I loved reading in this book that is just hogwash. Probably not the most elegant term, but really the way that they refer to it in this book is that a ring isn't a pissing contest. And if you can afford a big ring, get a big ring. But if that is outside of your range and a girl can't accept that, we should probably reflect on the nature of the relationship. Being financially responsible is a habit, and it takes two to carry this responsibility. Which brings me into the next point, which is to spend wisely on your wedding. Have candid conversations about the wedding particulars and financial priorities with future in-laws. If you or anyone in your family believe there absolutely must be a lavish, talk of the town, fairy tale wedding in order to fulfill some fantasy and make someone's life complete, ask why. Is this about the bride and groom or some perceived position in the community? Whom do you wish to impress? At what price? Newlyweds, do you want an impressive wedding or do you want a life together? A wedding lasts a day or 3 in some cultures. A life together, by definition, lasts a lifetime. And how a young couple starts their lives together can make a world of difference. So for our wedding, we eloped, and it wasn't to the pleasure of a lot of people, but equally it was the best thing for us. And even though it brought us a lot of grief till this day, we still wouldn't go back and change anything. And that's not just me. Like, I ask my husband all the time, I'm like, would you go back and change anything? And he's like, no, because it was the best thing for where we were in life and for what we wanted. And even though that it wasn't to the pleasure of many people around us, it was what suited our financial situation and what suited our tastes. Old money is prepared emotionally and financially to make a commitment. You should be too. You should think it through. Emotions are powerful, so is rent. Numerous honest and articulate discussions about making a life together never hurt any couple. If the passions cool considerably in the hard light of day, weigh that. If thinking and planning a future together reasonably and thoughtfully only ignites more passion, you may have chosen the right mate. So here are some of the things that I've learned when it comes to old money habits when communicating. So you can communicate something in a polite way, but be firm. Sometimes people aren't going to like your answer, but that doesn't mean that you are going to drop your standards and disrespect people, but that doesn't mean that you are going to waver in what it is that you are talking to them about. The next thing that I've learned in this book is to go to relatives for advice, but only when necessary. The thing is that often when you go and you complain to your family or your friends or your closest people, is that they aren't able to move past the bad things that may or may not have been said. And so when you have moved past it, they can't see past these things that you went and told them, so it'd be better not to say them at all. To wrap up this video, here are some helpful hints. Don't date someone you wouldn't consider marrying. Unless you're really wealthy, keep your wedding simple and inexpensive. Continue dating after you're married and avoid ultimatums. Anyways, ladies, that is it for this video. I hope you've been loving going through this book with me this month. If you are wanting to have a chance at winning a copy of it, you will want to make sure that you're subscribed to this channel and watch all the videos in this series. Thank you so much for watching. I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.